Hi everybody, my name's Michael Wright and I'm the Canine Behaviourist. I pop up here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. The idea is I talk a little bit about dog behaviour, maybe some training issues, maybe some problem with dog behaviour that I may be able to help you with. But generally the idea is hopefully that I can help you understand your dogs a little bit better. So today I've given it the snappy title, Putting the Time In the Navy Way. The Navy Way is the Royal Navy way. I'm an ex-Royal Navy medic. I've been in the medical world for many years, but I've been a canine behaviourist for a few now, having retrained and learned a lot more about dogs, more than I thought I knew. So what do I mean about putting the time in the Navy way? Well, let me just give you a picture of a couple incidents I've seen fairly regularly actually, but I've seen this quite recently. So I walk with my dog Ziggy every day in the woods or by the sea or wherever we choose to go. And I often meet people that have got dogs that aren't naughty, but they're a little bit unruly, a little bit lively, and a little bit out of control. And quite often these people will say to me, well, when we got the dog, be it a puppy or be it a rescue dog, it was something we'd always wanted to do, and we did some training, we did a little bit of training. So we tried a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but you know, as time has gone by, we don't quite do so much now. That actually means usually that they've done a little bit of training. They've decided that really they don't want to do any more, and the dog is the dog, and that's how it's going to behave. Now, of course, that's really not the way to approach it, but it's a very common way. So why have I talked about the Navy? Well, let me give you a little bit of my experience in the Navy. In 1982, I'd been in the Royal Navy for 9 years and I was a medic, and I'd never been on board a ship, as a lot of my colleagues hadn't in the medical world. Too many medics, not enough ships. So in 1982, there was a little incident down in the South Atlantic, and I was drafted to a ship to take part in that particular little jolly, as we'd call it in the Navy. So I joined the ship for the very first time. Never really been on a ship at all in 9 years of being in the Navy. A fairly smallish ship out of Rosyth up in Scotland. Because of my training and knowledge of my job as a medic, I, with the help of the ship's crew and the local sick bay where I was working at the time, stored the ship in about 24 hours, and then we said goodbye to our loved ones and off we went for a nice trip down to the South Atlantic. So the thing to understand about the Royal Navy, and indeed any armed service, is their training methods. They train very heavily and very in depth and continuously. So while we were traveling down to the South Atlantic on our nice little ship, we would have exercises. These are constant exercises to test our skills and to hone our skills in various areas. So we'd have crash landings on our flight deck, we'd have casualties, we'd have assimilated attacks where people would be injured and we'd have to fight various things off. We'd have fires, we'd have casualties, we'd have man overboard. Pretty much the list goes on and on. I would spend a lot of time on the flight deck in the sunshine, which sounds lovely, but training a very young crew. I think the average age was about 20. I was about 24 at the time, 23, 24. So training the crew in advanced casualty first aid, trauma first aid, and combat first aid. So that would be my role, and then my role would be to look after any casualties that occurred on board. Fortunately, during the time we were down there, we didn't see any casualties, but we could have. So we exercise. The thing is, we exercise over and over again. Throughout the day, throughout the night, exercise over and over. Now, the idea, of course, the military mind, and it's a good mind actually, because it works, it's very important. If you're going into a combat area, and this was relatively new to Royal Navy people, because really when you joined up you didn't really expect to see any action, unlike maybe the army. Particularly these days, the army see a lot of action. But in the Navy, back in 1982, most people didn't really expect to find themselves in that type of environment. However, the key to this constant training and going over and over it again, bear with me people, I will be getting to dogs. This is actually quite relevant. So we exercise over and over again, and it became second nature to us. So if an incident happened, we knew what to do, and we knew what to do instinctively. Didn't have to think about it, we did it. And that's the whole concept of training. You get to a certain point where you are now just reacting to what's happening. You know what to do, you don't panic, you just get on and do it. So you probably are thinking at this stage, what the hell is he telling me about being on board a ship and telling me about training naval personnel and military personnel? Well, it's directly applicable to our dogs. The people I've highlighted to you, who I've met quite often when I'm out and about, the people that have done a little bit of training. I mean, for instance, if you said, well, how good is your dog at recall? Oh, well, we tried it once or twice, but we don't do it so much now. So how good's the dog now? Not very good at all. Rarely comes when I call them. Now, that's not surprising, because they haven't adopted the Navy way or the military way. They haven't done it over and over again until it becomes locked into the mind of the dog. It applies to training your dog. It applies to any behavioural issues you're seeking to adjust or adapt the dog to. If you don't do it over and over regularly, the dogs aren't going to learn, and they're not going to get it, and they're not going to change their behaviour, or they're not going to have a particular good recall, or not jumping up, or whatever it is. They're not going to do it. Dogs like us forget stuff. I mean, if I stopped doing this for years and then I went back to it, I'd remember some of it, but I'd probably have forgotten quite a lot of the technical stuff, the academic stuff. So you have to practice it. So that means when we're training our dogs, I've talked about it before, but it's worth going over again, because it's a fairly constant thing. When we're training our dogs, we can't say, I've done a little bit of that, I've tried a bit of this, but I don't do it quite so much. When you're dealing with a dog, and particularly when you're dealing with training a dog, you have to do it throughout its whole life. Okay, so for instance, if I'm walking my dog Ziggy and I'm out in the woods, or I'm on a beach and she's far away, every now and again I'll do a little recall. I'll get her to come back and I'll make a big fuss of her as though she's never done it before, and I'll do that regularly during her walk. If a recall's fine, I might let it slide occasionally, but generally I'll practice it, and I'll practice it in different locations. That's very important as well, because if you do that, your dogs are going to learn that this behaviour applies here, here, and here. Doesn't matter where they are, same behaviour applies. So it doesn't matter what it is. Jumping up, not begging for food, not pulling on the lead, coming when called, all those sorts of things you practice. And here's the kicker. Here's the main important part actually, is you practice and you do these things throughout the whole of your dog's life. Throughout the whole of your dog's life. To be honest, when my dogs get a bit old and creaky and are slowing down, I give them a little bit more leeway, because hey, they've got it by then. Um, and going back to the Navy, that's what they do. So in my early days in the Navy, after I trained as a medic, we go and either work in hospitals or we go to medical centres, looking after the health of the staff on a base. But even there, not in a wartime, not in any dangerous situations, we would practice. We practiced for major accidents. We practiced. I served in quite a lot of Royal Navy air stations, so there were helicopters and other types of aircraft. So we would practice them ditching at sea. We would practice people falling out of aircraft. We would practice them crashing and having casualties in the aircraft. We would practice for emergency landings at night, in the day. It didn't really matter, and we were geared up to do that at any time. Whenever the alarm went off, we would just hove into action, and that applied to ground staff who looked after the aircraft on the ground, the aircraft handlers, the flight handlers, the fire crews. They regularly practiced. We even practiced chemical attacks, decontamination, anything of that nature. We would do that on a relatively regular basis. If we worked in hospitals, you'd have a major incident every now and again where the whole hospital got involved in it. So I'm not going to spend hours on this. This is going to be a very short one tonight. But as I say, the key to it is practice. You know the old adage, practice makes perfect. Well, it applies to our dogs. It applies to every single dog. You don't make their life a misery by continually expecting them to do whatever you want to do, jump through hoops. We just want them to enjoy their lives, have consistency, know what's required, when it's required, and where it's required. And by simply practicing it, you'll find that you'll have much stronger control and bond with your dog, because most dogs actually quite enjoy training and practicing stuff. They get quite a buzz, particularly if they get rewarded or praised or a little bit of a treat now and again. It's an enjoyable thing for them to do. It keeps them active, it keeps them sharp, it keeps their mind sharp. They have to think about things and they have to be ready to do what's required of them. And it can be quite an enjoyable thing to do, but practice. It's as simple as that. Practice. Just keep going back to the same stuff and go over it and over. And you'll have a much more relaxed time with your dogs. You won't be the person out walking with the dog that's jumping all over everybody and bothering other dogs all the time and not being sociable in the right way and is being overexcited all the time. You'll be the one with the dog that is sociable, pretty well behaved. Bear in mind, they don't always get it right. And your life with your dog will take a much nicer step into a much happier place when you don't have to worry about it. So we can't just take it as read that we've done enough and we don't need to do any more. We're never ever going to be in that situation. We are always going to be in a situation where you can train your dogs a little bit better. You can enhance their lives by training them, teaching them new good behavior, how to live with us happily, and how to live with other dogs as well and other people, all that sort of stuff. So I think that's a very short one tonight, guys, but that's basically what I was trying to get to you. The military way is repetition, practice. Apply that to your dogs in their training and in any behavior modifications you're working on with a behaviorist or indeed your trainer, and you'll find you'll have some positive results from it. So that's it for me tonight. Short and sweet. Put in time the Navy way. It's good. So if you have any issues with behavior that you think I can help with, visit my site down at the bottom of the screen there, www.thecaninebehaviourist.co.uk. You can contact me via there. I can do video conferences and video consultations with you, and I think the way things are going, I'll be doing that for quite some time yet to come. But I can help at distance, particularly if you are able to video a dog's behaviour and let me see it. It gives me a bit of a clue where we're going with it. So contact me with any questions you may have via my site that you think we can discuss on here. Happy to do that. Nothing too complicated, obviously. Got to keep it relatively simple. You can visit me at C Behaviourist on Twitter, and in fact any of my links, I'm on Facebook as well, obviously, Instagram. Any of my links you'll find actually via my website. So I think that's it for now, guys. Nobody's turned up again, but I don't really expect them to. This is a good medium if anybody wants to chat and get involved with me. But I will always put this onto Instagram, I'll put it onto Twitter, I'll put it onto Facebook, and I'll put it onto YouTube as well. So anybody that's watching this at a later stage, I know people do that, and I welcome you all to watch. If I make you think about it a little bit, that's good. If you think you need any help and you want to ask me questions, please do, and I'll do my best to help via this particular medium. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching this whenever you get around to watching it, and I hope it's been of some use. Okay, bye bye for now.